Introducing our official sponsor of D2C Diaries, Motion.
Motion is a non-negotiable part of our tech stack when it comes to performance and performance creative. It's probably the most important in terms of that synergy between performance and creative. And as we know, that has become more and more important. We have scaled brands to over 8 figures in run rate, multiple brands such as 47 Skin, The Essence Vault, Nutrition Geeks, and many more. And if we didn't have Motion, I don't know if we would have been able to do that to the same degree. Let's use 47 Skin as an example. We were able to scale them by over 400% in 3 months, and we used Motion as part of our reporting and optimization process to isolate soft metrics such as click-through rate, thumb stock ratio, hold rate, to be able to drive performance further. Now, as you know, these are the variables that drive a winning creative and what essentially convert into customers. And that is what Motion is so good at. It's great at turning eyeballs into customers. And I think that optimization period and that disconnect that we usually see between media buyers and creative strategists is one of the biggest bottlenecks within this market, and it's usually why brands don't scale and they plateau. Now, that's why Motion has become an integral part of our process and an integral part of the process for most of the brands within the D2C space. The big iconic brands like the Hexclads, the True Classics, and many more, they use Motion every single day as part of their process. Now, if you want to use Motion and give it a test and give it a try, then head over to motionapp.com. That's motionapp.com. You can find a link down below. And if you say that you came through D2C Diaries, they will give you 50% off on your first month. Trust me, don't sleep on this tool. It has been the biggest unlock for all of our D2C brands that we work with. And if you want to hear more, go to motionapp.com.
When I started this brand, I thought, how am I going to get a customer? Like, how do you get a customer? Do you know what I mean? Because I wasn't of the mindset like you two are, like performance marketing.
Welcome back to another episode of D2C Diaries. We are joined by Elissa, who long overdue. We've been trying to get you on for a while, founder of Elissa. We've known each other for a while, worked with you for a long period of time now, and it's so exciting to have you on the show today.
I know. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm glad we've made it happen.
Yeah, welcome down.
Yeah, I remember because, you were one of our first clients on our performance creative package.
I felt like I was one of your first clients as well.
Teed issues. We've come a long way since
that was a couple of years ago now. But yeah, I remember we were chatting online, and then I came and met you in that hotel in Covent Garden, was it?
Yeah, in the Nomads. I was like literally putting you through your paces. I was so agency fatigued at that point.
Agencies.
I was like, you better pull something out the bag for me here and do not bullshit me, Loukas.
Yeah, you're like, Loukas, do you know how many times I've been fucked over by agencies?
I reckon I had a good about 4 or 5 of those calls as well.
I know.
After that point.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Really,
to be fair, yeah.
Got to allow the vent.
Well, listen, I'm just a straight talker. I'm literally just a straight talker with everyone. Like, I set my stall up straight away. Like, this is what's happened. This is where I'm at. I'm really sick of this, this, and this. These are my pain points. And by the way, I'm still got the same pain points. So I think I might need it back.
Cool. Well, yeah, we're loads of stuff we want to get into today. Really excited because I think what you've built is quite incredible. It's not just a D2C brand. I think you've built a really diehard community, and I think there's a lot that a lot of founders listening to this can learn from that, so we can definitely get into all of that. But I think the one thing we just like to start on is that origin story of, because you've actually got a very interesting origin story, which, to be honest, until I just mentioned that, then I completely forgot what came before Elissa. So maybe let's start there, and we'll then dive into some of those other bits in a bit later.
Yeah. So how did I come up with the brand? So, like a lot of brands in the D2C community at the moment, is like a lot of it started in lockdown. But before that, I used to be a newspaper journalist. So I've always been in the media, and I've always been able to spot a story or spot a headline, or maybe even, have an idea for something and then try and make it work. Do you know what I mean? So, and essentially that is what marketing is. It's trying to spot something that people would be interested in. So without even knowing it, I was kind of laying the foundations of what I do now. Back in the newsroom, the shittiest job ever. But my God, was it a training ground for entrepreneurship. My boss was famously one of the hardest men in the newsroom. He had this reputation. Everybody knew Chris Johnson. And I was, he'd fling a chair at you, never at me, but, he was just like crazy.
Can't get away with that nowadays.
No, of course you can't. No,
old school
but,
media.
you know, and he was really like, get on the phone, get them to tell you this, do not take no for an answer. And because, you know, I was essentially paid on commission, 12 grand a year I was on at that back then. And it was like, you know, a news story had just broken, and it would be like, you know, a big Premiership footballer. And he'd make me go and draw out the house and ask him for a comment. And I was 21 at the time. I was like, oh my God,
That's
what am I
crazy.
doing?
That for like just building resilience
Oh
must
my
be.
God.
'Cause you must have just, in terms of becoming thick-skinned.
Of course, yeah.
Like there's nothing more awkward or more difficult to do than that.
It's like door-to-door sales, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rejection.
It's like
just
sales is
rejection,
so hard, but
rejection.
having to do that in the flesh is like a different beast.
Worse than that is the death knock. Someone's just died. Their kids have just died, right? The last person they want to see on the doorstep is a journalist. The last person. And I'm knocking on the door saying, hi, have you got a picture of, you know, the person you've just lost? It's like, oh my God, terrible. You know, there's so many times I've been frog marched off someone's lawn. This was terrible. I'll never forget this. It was a terrible story. A paedophile ring was going on. And big case. I think it was Vanessa George and a couple of other people. Anyway, one of the guys, he was from Liverpool. His family still lived in Liverpool. So I get a call saying, can you go to the house, door knock the house? So I was like, okay. So I turn up, and I'll never forget his name. His name's Colin. And I knocked on the door. I said, hi, I'm looking for Colin Blanchard. And he was like, yeah. And that's me. And I was like, oh, well, I'm here about your son. He said, what about him? And I was like, what? This has like been the biggest news story ever. What? Like, you don't know like why I'm here. And I said, well, you know, he's just been sentenced today. He said, what for? And I was like, he said, we're estranged. I haven't seen him for years. I was like, oh my God. And then I had to tell him what he'd been doing. And he was like, he starts breaking down and crying in front of me. And he was like, he's got kids himself. Like, what the hell? And I was like, oh my God. Do you know what I mean? And this,
Yeah.
I'm 21 years old. It was just, and this is every day. I've got to like go, well, have you got any pictures of it? Do you know what I mean? Like, it was absolutely awful. But talk about building resilience. And then you get so hardened to it, you know, and it got to the point where you're indulging in risky behaviour. You're trying to do anything because everyone is a vulture. And it's right what they say about journalists. It's a horrible industry. You lie and cheating. Your mates that your colleagues, you backstab them to get the story. And it was just a toxic environment that I absolutely hated. And after 9 months in that particular job, I actually had a big row with my boss and just thought, fuck you, and walked out on him, right? And that was it. And then I went freelance. And my next story after that, I made my entire year's wage off one story. And I thought, well, I'm pretty good at spotting a story. But even then, I still didn't like the tactics that were employed in journalism. So I kind of went over to doing like features and things like that, a bit more nicer writing. But I mean, in terms of like, yeah, training ground for entrepreneurship, like, honestly, wow, unreal. Like, there's no situation you could put me in where I wouldn't be able to like sort it out. You know what I mean? And now the younger generation, they don't even like getting on the phone to do anything.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, get them on the phone. I want to speak to them face to face because you can get things done quick, easy. Let's get it moving. Sick of email chains. I'm properly old school there.
I think it's so important. It's just, I think whether you're in business or not, I think it's such a good, I think you use sales in everything,
Yeah, of
essentially in
course.
life.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to go through that and have those lessons. I was the same. I started in marketing sales.
Yeah.
And yeah, so much of that I've taken into my life.
Even I think it's beneficial for people in a job as well because you know how to sell yourself. Like,
Yeah.
employment is you selling yourself as a person, aren't you? And people don't push negotiation as hard as they could there. Or like,
Yeah.
So many people that have come into our business that like in their first interview, they just didn't know how to sell themselves. And I had a completely different view of them compared to them when I'd seen a task and like, okay, fuck me, they're actually really good, but they just struggle to show that side.
Definitely. But yeah, so I think that was absolutely crazy. But that actually has led into what has really helped me build this brand. I mean, along the way, then I ended up doing like a reality show, met a lot of like reality stars. Then they needed a writer. They were writing autobiographies. So I started writing them, ghostwriting for them.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
any really big names?
You know, Geordie Shore girls, things like that. Some like big gym influencers did
Nice.
theirs. Some infamous people that I'll never ever put my name on. But it's just paycheck. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, so I used to do a lot of that. And then, kind of really got into health and fitness after that. So I was always still writing in the background, really enjoying writing about health and fitness, wellness. And it was only really, I did Bear Grylls after that, purely because I was like, fuck it, I've got nothing to lose here. I'd left a long-term relationship. I'd moved back to Liverpool, had about a tenner to my name. Like, I thought, what am I going to do? Like, go back to doing journalism that I absolutely hate, or, writing these autobiographies which no one's buying anymore. What am I going to do? And I just thought, I don't know. But I'd interviewed Ant Middleton the night before on stage, and he was like, come and do SAS. I think you've got it in you. And I was like, it's in fucking Scotland, mate. It's freezing. I'm not doing that. And I was like, but I tell you what, I know I've got it in me, definitely. So the next day I applied for Bear Grylls, and I got it. There's like 10,000 people, and I got the space. So I was like, made up. There's 12 of us. And
is that the island, is it called?
The island, yeah. So, and again, I've never even camped before. I was like, what?
0 to 100.
I hate sand as well.
I do. I hate
sand. Fuck. So this was like horrible, but I thought, I've got nothing to lose. What an experience. What a great dinner party story, if nothing else. And they were like, we'll pay your loss of earnings. So I was like, great. So I'd like fudged a few numbers here and there. And then they said, you potentially might win some money. There's 100 grand on the island. I was like, oh, brilliant. And while I wasn't really going with the motivation to win the money, as soon as I got there and saw everybody else's motivation was the money, then it became a competition. So I knew I had to really get after it then. And ended up coming away with obviously like the crazy life experience, but I actually came back with £10,000, which was like oxygen to me at that time. Honestly, it really was. And that became, and not only that, let me just tell you that the reason that the whole brand looks the way it does today is because of the experiences that I had on that island. So one of the biggest things it showed me was really how much we have destroyed this planet. On that, it's a tiny island in Panama called one of the Pearl Islands. It was called Bayonetta. And the amount of garbage and rubbish and everything that was on it that had washed up there was just unbelievable. I could have had a new pair of Crocs every day. I could have had a new toothbrush every day. I was finding them everywhere. And while all that litter and rubbish was great for survival and making it a bit more pleasant while I was there, it just opened my eyes to fucking hell. Now, when I realised I wanted to get into like the e-com space during lockdown, then I thought, well, I'm not going to exacerbate the problem that I know is happening anyway. Health and wellness, beauty, single-use plastic, one of the worst offenders for polluting the world. And yes, I know a lot of brands like to be sustainable as like a bit of a box ticking exercise and like pay a bit of lip service to it, but we really do not. We really consider it. And it's something we actually do not focus on in terms of our marketing in the business, because I truly believe that the consumer actually doesn't care that much. That's what's come back.
I think it used to be. I think they used to 10 years ago. I feel like it's now like a tick box rather than like a real USP.
Yeah. It's like an afterthought. Oh, it's sustainable as well. But if you want the product, you want the product, regardless.
Yeah. Funnily enough, we were doing a training session on this yesterday, and it was kind of how you need to speak through your messaging in different ways depending on the generation. And it said that actually, if you're speaking, which I'm not sure how much else there would be, but to boomers, they actually, if you put sustainability messaging at the forefront of that, they really care about that in comparison.
Right.
But yeah, it's true. I think we've tested it for a lot of brands, and it is like it's just become a must-have almost. It's not a USP anymore.
I think unless your whole brand is built solely around the proposition of being like a sustainable thing,
like Surrey is a good example.
Yeah,
that's a good example. But I still think their main reason people buy it is because the product's really cool, looks amazing, really good function, and then it's like and it's sustainable.
Yeah,
I think if you're doing like sustainable, I don't know, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, like shoes or something, and it's like your whole brand is eco-friendly, XYZ.
Recycled, something else.
Yeah, that's a good example. Like recycled plastic something.
Yeah.
But I think it's a lot of the time it's just thrown in now.
Yeah, exactly. But that was a big thing in kind of like the forefront of my mind. I was like, I don't want to use plastic. So let's try not to use plastic in anywhere we can. The bags we use are compostable. The literature we print on is like pulp paper or the boxes are all recyclable. And then the decanter was, until now, was recycled brass. So, and there's...
This is the worst product placement you've ever done.
Sorry. I was going to reveal it.
You're banging on about how your podcast is all else.
It was the big reveal. You ruined the big reveal.
Yeah, so it was brass until I realised, brass was absolutely... Since I started the business, and it was great. But the guys in India where I buy them from these Indian artisans, just, there was too many imperfect ones coming back, and they couldn't nail a screw top correctly. So it was getting difficult to scale a business with brass. And all our customers wanted a screw top. So we've actually changed to glass. I'll never go to plastic. And this is aluminium. So now we've got a screw top, which is perfect.
Yeah, really nice.
And they all come back perfect. Do you know what I mean? So we switched to glass, which was the right decision. A hard one, but the right decision. And obviously then it's slightly bigger as well. So now we've had to change all the packaging. And now every single picture we've ever done of anything that's gone previous has now got to all be changed, which is, obviously a huge cost. But, in the long run, it's a lot better. But just to go back to my point about journalism and how that helped me in the future was when I started this brand, I thought, how am I going to get a customer? How do you get a customer? Do you know what I mean? Because I wasn't of the mindset like you two are, like performance marketing. That was like didn't even know about it at this stage. But what I did know was PR and marketing. So I wrote this piece, and me and a friend had come up with this title calling it a female Viagra because one of the ingredients in Elissa is tribulus, and that raises a woman's libido. So we came up with this headline, and I contacted a friend at the Daily Mail, and she was like, yeah, I kind of like this. And I was like, okay. She was like, we need something newsy to peg it on. And I was like, well, we have shot up by 400%. Now, that was true because from day one to day 14, we were up for 400% on Shopify. So that was the story and that was the link. So it's a bit of, cobbled together. But that then went in the Daily Mail, big full page spread. And I am not joking. I could not believe I didn't even have a desk in my office at that stage. And we did, I think it was about 25 grand that day.
Wow.
And I was like, what the fuck? Without one pence spent. I was like, oh my God.
I was going to get onto this later, but I think just because we're talking about it now, one thing we really don't talk about much, and you've obviously, you're an expert in many ways, is that PR piece and getting organic PR. Just based on what you've just said there, what advice do you have for brand owners that are looking to drive or more organic PR? Okay, so journalists are looking to peg it on a news story. They don't want to talk about your product because it's an advert, and they're like, why should I? Do you know what I mean? And most of the time, they want negative news all the time. So even if it's a positive story and a journalist has rang us up and said, oh, hi, ladies, yeah, we want to write about you. I just know around it there'll be a doctor's opinion of this is
nonsense.
This is complete shit. Yeah. Right? So you've got us and you got them. So let the reader make up their own mind. But so first of all, you need to be able to spot a story, read what's going on in the news. If you don't actually read what's going on in the news, you're never going to know what a story looks like or how you can then peg it on something, to do with whatever's going on in the news that day. I don't know.
That alignment of message and trend.
Of course.
Yeah, so you're piggybacking off of, things that are going through the news at that given time.
Absolutely, and try and relate it back to your brand, whatever.
I'm trying to think of an example, but I don't read the news enough to think of a good one.
Exactly.
Which is the problem. But makes sense though.
Well, if there was a couple of weeks ago, there's a big article about magnesium and which one you should take, and we've just brought out a magnesium product. So I was like, bang, great that. Get that. We can peg it on this today. Yeah. And then the talent is pretty much trying to find a good angle, or if you can attach something to a celebrity is really good too. I mean, that's golden. Everyone will print it, as I found out in the summer, which had nothing to do with me, by the way. Genuinely, I was in the Lake District, right, and I didn't even know this had happened until I got back. And I look at my phone and I'm like, wow, we're getting a lot of sales today. What's gone on? And Abby Clancy had mentioned on her podcast with Peter, and she started taking our
Great
product.
podcast, by the way.
Yeah. This was before I was even on the podcast.
Yeah.
She just mentioned it. And some journalist somewhere who could absolutely kiss just picked it up and wrote about it, right? Organically, and put it on the Mail Online. And I was like, oh my God. Now, we could never have like predicted this, but then it got picked up by every other newspaper, Lorraine, This Morning. Do you know what I mean? It was like everybody.
Gross.
Like then, so every other title
Snowball.
then picked up on it.
It like
just
it's so I've
exploded.
noticed that it just takes one, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then they all just pick it up.
And the fact that it was completely organic and it was like she was sharing something quite personal and vulnerable as well, just made it even better. We didn't pay her to say it; she just said it. And it was like a real defining moment for us, actually.
That storytelling elements that probably made it so much more powerful as well.
Yeah,
I imagine that helps with PR. And in terms of like reaching out to them, is it a case of just building connections, cold outreach
old
to them?
school, yeah, just like building those connections and speaking to journalists and trying to build that rapport. Do you know what I mean? If you see a news story that's maybe about a product that's similar to yours or something like that, have a look at who wrote it, click on them, email them saying, love what you saw, love the piece you did on XYZ. I'd love to, take you for lunch, see what you could do, whatever.
Just being different, I guess. I imagine they're getting peppered with requests and getting sent so much free product nowadays that just
potentially, but I think
different.
I still think if you take the effort to build that relationship, I definitely think it'll pay off. And then it's good for social proof too, isn't it? So, I mean, to get an editorial is so hard, because, you can be you can buy an advert.
Yeah.
Of course you can, in like Vogue or whatever. But that's completely different to getting actual editorial from a journalist that's a heavyweight.
Yeah.
And that can be really powerful and something that I leverage a lot. I think it's our biggest lever.
Yeah. It's powerful on the first push in terms of awareness, but it's like the quotes, even the logos is one thing, but even when they're doing a full page, you get so many quotes, so many snippets that you can pull into.
Yeah, exactly.
Ads,
good for SEO.
Everything, yeah.
Strong, yeah. And it's something that a lot of D2C brands just don't even think about because they're like, well, how do you track it? How do you do this? And whatever. And like we got reviewed the other day in The Independent. It's now called The Eye Paper. But I was like, oh God, we've been reviewed. Because you're always a bit like, what are they going to write? And she put, after 2 months taking Elsewhere, I'm like a dog on heat. And I was like, oh my God. I actually don't want to even put that on the website. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a bit crass.
That's great.
Good social proof, though.
But that was great, yeah.
Sometimes the more crude, the better.
I know.
In marketing terms.
I know, but...
That's a very good hook.
Yeah, I literally just thought the same.
Oh, that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah. Well, we do it a lot for the brands. Like one of the first things I'll always look at as part of the creative strategy is, are there any of those standout PR headlines or, quotes that we could tie into the hook? Because I think it's used a lot just in terms of that product backing USP pretty much before the CTA, but rarely is it brought to like the forefront within the hook. And I think there's a big opportunity there as well.
Yeah, we've had a good one in the Sun as well. But obviously I'm from Liverpool and everyone hates the Sun.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, so
I'm surprised
obviously
you allowed that.
No, again, it wasn't anything to do with me. I couldn't have any control over it. But what I do have control over is whether we put it anywhere, and we don't for that reason because I've got loads of mates who are Scousers and stuff like that. I'm practically a Scouser myself. Yeah, but that was a great headline as well. It's like, this golden pill saved my sex life. Now, again, it's like, I can't really use that headline because Meta will just ban it as well. You've got to be really careful.
Yeah, you do. You could probably use it in some way with some words starred out.
You could probably cross it out where it's still obvious what that word is.
Yeah, true.
I think there's a line there, but I think when it's like if it's quoted from somewhere like that, then I think usually it's usually okay. You can't just fabricate things like that, I don't think.
You could do it as a...
I've tried it though before, that original piece that said female Viagra. We got banned for that straight away.
Yeah.
You
could do it almost as like a crossword, as an ad. And then just the word sex is not there.
Viagra is definitely probably a problem.
Viagra, you can't.
You can't be selling Viagra with Facebook ads. I think that's a problem.
No, exactly. And I was a bit like, do we have to put that in the headline? Because now I can never use it. And everyone leads in with the sex aspect. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake, can we not, can we not now? But hey ho, here we are. But yeah.
So going back then, that first inflection point was almost that that first PR push that you had, and that just really helped scale in the early days. What would you say was the next turning point for the business after that?
So again, I didn't even pick up on performance. Didn't even do any performance marketing in my first year, believe it or not. But I got to a very reputable 1,000 subscribers without spending a penny, which was, and that's
amazing.
Very solid.
Well, it is,
Very
isn't
good,
it?
yeah.
Without spending anything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just me talking about it, and I always use that as a bit as an example. Then, I got a marketing agency. They were really expensive, and they were more like 360 brand agents, and they were good, and they worked with really big brands, really credible. They're from Leeds, actually. And still talk to them now, still, really bounce ideas off them, but it was probably too soon. They were looking at really long-term strategy. We were only a year old at that point, and they were really expensive as well. So I think we were just too green for that at the time. At the same time, I got pregnant. So I was like, okay, and I know now I'm on the clock. I've got 9 months to really stabilize this, because it's not going to be me forward in front of the camera. I'm going to get to a point where I'm not going to be able to do this because I'm going to be heavily pregnant, worn out, whatever. And I thought, I need to stabilize this business. So we did.
Just you at that point.
Still just me. Took Kelly on just towards the end of the first year. She was a part-time member of staff. She was working for the NHS doing that. Because this was like COVID time. Do you remember like when people used to ring you up saying, are you isolating?
Yeah.
That was her job. And I was like,
that's wild that even happens.
I know.
Thinking back.
Yeah. And I was like, why don't you come and do it for my office? Because I could really do a hand with like people packing with me. And she was like, yeah, no problem. And I said, well, when we hit this subscriber number, I'll give you a full-time job. So that's what we worked towards. And then, full-time job. She's still with me now. She's like,
she's great.
She's great. It's very rare to find somebody who is an employee but thinks about the business like it's their business. I mean, if you asked her for a key to my office, she would swallow it before she gave it to you. Do you know what I mean? She's loyal. She's loyal. Yeah. She's the one who's like at a wedding at 7:00 at night, will jump out of the wedding, get on a computer and do a Zoom with Skio because something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the dedication is like unwavering. Yeah. Very rare to find that.
Very lucky.
Yeah. Very lucky to find that, to be fair. If you had 10 Kellys, fucking move mountains.
She leads a lot of your customer side, doesn't it?
Exactly. And that's another...
I wanted to talk about that
a
bit. It's like the way that you interact with your customer base and how you think about customer relationships, because I think it's really interesting.
Rare again. And everyone goes, how do you scale that? I'm like, well, let me worry about scaling that. But very much, I was always... The thing is with D2C brands is, and I said this to somebody the other day, I went, you're looking at your Shopify and you're looking at all these names and you're looking at like the revenue and the top line and the conversion, and I do all these things. But essentially, there's lists of names there. They are people, they have families, they have children, they have husbands, relationships, jobs. They have made all those decisions. They've gone through the steps, the funnel, the this, the that. They're not data points. Don't think of them as
true.
Data points. They are people who have believed in you, believed in your brand, believe in what you're saying. Treat them with a lot of respect. And we do. And I'm like, that customer comes first. This is their money. Spend it wisely. We give them the best service we can. We give them the best product we can. We give them the best advice we can. And we've always led with that. That is 100 million%. I will die on that hill. That is our culture. And anybody coming into this business, if you are not going to be on board with that, and if you are not prepared to make a phone call to that customer because they can't put in the card details themselves and you can do it for them, if you're not prepared to do that, then you're not going to get a job here.
Yeah.
And that's where we're different. And we really look after that because they feel that. They know that. When I got pregnant, I had loads of, presents and baby clothes and stuff coming to me. And I was
That's
like,
insane.
Well, exactly, because I feel like they're an extension of our friends. And it is true, like, a lot of our customers are like evangelical about us. And that probably will be hard to scale, but we're doing a pretty good job of it already. And I think if you keep just reiterating that to your customers, to your your staff, your agencies, whoever you're working with, that is our number one rule. That's our North Star. So anything that is going to take us away from that, then we don't do it, and we do a lot of offline events as well to reward our customers. We do a lot of gifting. Make 2 reasons. 1, I want to support your loyalty. 2, I want brand awareness. So if you are now using a product with our name on it, out and about in London with a tote bag or a mirror or whatever, and it's a conversation starter with a group of your friends, that's great brand awareness for us, and that's cost us like next to nothing to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all these things, again, you can't track, but that's why I believe brands exist in people's heads, okay? You can't track that. But, something you might have done 2 years ago might just sit there and they might remember it, and one day they'll purchase it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't see the work that's gone in the back end, all those years that you've been plugging away at something. But people get a feeling about the brand, and that will always stay true. And I hope we never lose that. But yeah, I think that the biggest things for us is they are not data points. They're people, they're customers. Treat them with respect. Yeah. And give them the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you just said it there, but like brand, the difference between like a brand and a product is like a brand is a feeling, isn't it? And that's exactly right. And the connection that you've been able to build with your audience has driven that feeling. And I think the brands that are really winning today are the ones that understand that and are customer centric as you are. And I think that's so important now. And what I think is so great about that, and you see this trend in great founders where they're so obsessed about that customer experience. And I think people kind of forget that they've got this customer base in front of them that really they're the ones that have bought the product. They've gone through that journey, as you say, and it's like they're the ones you need to be speaking to, because I think you probably learned more and more about your product by doing that, and you don't, because I think you get disconnected otherwise from what actually you're seeing versus what the customer's seeing.
Yeah, I don't make a decision without kind of like asking them. There's no way. Like we, everybody wants a screw top. Brilliant, we've made a screw top for you. If we want to bring out new products. Now, a lot of people also trust my advice as well. So many people, even on my personal profile, will come and say, trust you, what you say. So, what should I be giving my kids supplement-wise? What should I be giving this? And I'm like, okay, X, Y, and Z. Or they're like, have you looked into this? Because I really trust your opinion on this.
P.S. Consult with your doctor.
Obviously, always. But yeah, which is nice, because then you've built that kind of integrity. And I cannot be bought. Even as the other thing about journalism is, you kind of had to get to the truth and try and look at the balance of things. Now journalism is like, who can pay you the most? And at holiday, journalists who used to go on holiday, I was like, well, you've got to write about that hotel favourably because they've just given you a 10 grand holiday. So it's not really journalism, is it? Food critics, they always pay for their food so they can have an unbiased opinion on it. So I'm the same. If I'm backing a product, you cannot pay me for it, and I don't take commission. So if I'm genuinely posting about a product on my page, I've 100% bought it, and often I print the receipt that I bought it, and this is my opinion. Now, if it's like a massive company, then fair enough. I'll give it, and I think, God, this is terrible. Why are they doing this? Like Vitabiotics, Pregnacare. You might need to cut this out, but whatever. It's not the best products. They're using, talc in their Pregnacare products. Talc. You for real? Like, it's one of the top ingredients, which means it's one of the biggest ingredients in there. You can't be giving that to pregnant women. So I'm dead against things like that. And they deserve getting called out. Now, if it was like a mum and dad brand, I would never do that. I'd just be like, well, no, there's better on the market.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to, like, kill everyone's livelihood. But yeah, I think I'm fair. And if I really like something, then I'll go balls to the wall on it.
I think that's difficult to get to kind of like garner that trust and that position in people's minds as well. I think a lot of people who have it forego it too easily. Some of the big, especially some of the bigger influencers and thought leaders, or people like people that others look up to. Like, there's been obviously quite a few stories over the last 6 to 12 months of people just big influencers advertising products that completely contradict each other. Stephen Bartlett, which we've discussed on here, advertising gut health and then Huel in the same sentence.
I know. Whenever he's got Tim Spector on, I'm like, let's ask him about Huel, shall we?
Yeah, just like, I think there's something to be said there about once you've lost it. You might not you lose all of your audience's trust through something like that, but you'll lose a cohort or a subset of it, and you can never get that back. One bad experience is enough to sway people away from.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's the thing. We don't use influencers either. Never even. I mean, if anybody's looking at our business, they'd be like, you don't use influencers. You don't do this. You don't do ambassadors. You don't pay anyone to do anything.
Just legacy media.
Everything's organic. But slow growth, but a lot of growth on the table if anybody wants to, come and give us a hand. But so that's the other thing. Unless there is somebody genuinely, let's say, I don't know, somebody who's got a really big following. And we've had this, by the way, and they've posted about it, so I can probably say the names. Again, Vicky Patterson. She was a friend of mine before, when, back in the day, of Geordie Shore. And we've just stayed, connected. And then she was like, oh, well done, Elissa, let me try the product, blah, blah, blah. And she posted about it, which was great. And I would never even want to work with anyone who didn't genuinely love the product. If you, nobody. And we've got quite a few celebrities. Some we can say because they're on record, and some we can't. Even a Hollywood A-lister is on it, and I wish I could say who it is. But if they didn't genuinely love the product, what's the point? You can just tell a mile away, can't you?
Yeah,
that you've just paid them to say this.
You need to make them the Hollywood A-listers, some crazy, massive Elissa.
I know.
Bundle.
Years supply, massive pot,
of course.
and just send it to them
in
some huge crate, see if they post it.
Yeah, exactly.
Introducing our official sponsor of D2C Diaries, Motion. Motion is a non-negotiable part of our tech stack when it comes to performance and performance creative. It's probably the most important in terms of that synergy between performance and creative. And as we know, that has become more and more important. We have scaled brands to over 8 figures in run rate, multiple brands such as 47 Skin, The Essence Vault, Nutrition Geeks, and many more. And if we didn't have Motion, I don't know if we would have been able to do that to the same degree. Let's use 47 Skin as an example. We were able to scale them by over 400% in 3 months, and we used Motion as part of our reporting and optimization process to isolate soft metrics such as click-through rate, thumb stock ratio, hold rate, to be able to drive performance further. Now, as you know, these are the variables that drive a winning creative and what essentially convert into customers. And that is what Motion is so good at. It's great at turning eyeballs into customers. And I think that optimization period and that disconnect that we usually see between media buyers and creative strategists is one of the biggest bottlenecks within this market. And it's usually why brands don't scale and they plateau. Now, that's why Motion has become an integral part of our process and an integral part of the process for most of the brands within the D2C space. The big iconic brands like the Hexclads, the True Classics, and many more, they use Motion every single day as part of their process. Now, if you want to use Motion and give it a test and give it a try, then head over to motionapp.com. That's motionapp.com. You can find the link down below. And if you say that you came through D2C Diaries, they will give you 50% off on your first month. Trust me, don't sleep on this tool. It has been the biggest unlock for all of our D2C brands that we work with. And if you want to hear more, go to motionapp.com.
Do you do much influencer seeding? So you're not asking, necessarily to pay people for posting, but sending products to people to get it in their hands.
No, we literally don't even do that. So a lot of people might come on to us because they'll say, oh, I've heard about your product from XYZ, a friend of mine takes it or whatever, I saw it in the news or something like that. We had loads of them. And again, like Helen Flanagan posted about it yesterday. She just messaged us saying how I'd love to try it. I was like, yeah, no problem. There you go. And she did 5 stories last week. And she did another one yesterday, giving us an update on the journey. And you know what I mean? We don't ever go out.
So much free media.
Much free media. Well,
yeah,
I know.
That's amazing.
Can you imagine if I really doubled down on other aspects where I'm so weak on? I know I'm good at this stuff. I know I'm good at PR and marketing. It's probably the only thing I'm good at, to be honest. Data, looking at stuff, metrics. That's you two are demons at it. You're so good. And I feel sometimes I probably focus on emotion and community maybe a little bit too much. And if I had more of the, aggression and kind of, just stepping back a little bit, then we'd be a bit further on. But, I just do what feels right. I do what feels right at the time. And I think, I treat every situation differently and think, okay, what can we do? What would our audience like the best? But I think this year is a pivotal year for us. This is like, we're going into year 4 now. So we've done 3 years. And don't forget, I've had a baby in that time. I can't even begin to tell you how difficult that was. I mean, I was paying invoices as I was in labor. I was like, fuck, I'm in labor. This I don't do this now. It's not going to get done. And then having to go back into work like straight away with my baby after having an emergency C-section is just horrendous. But, you've got to do these things. And it guts me really, because I think I didn't have that time at home with my little girl when I should have done. I'm never going to get that time back. And it's got to be worth it. I'm missing out on the best years of our life. It's got to be worth it. So this year is a pivotal year now. We're not messing around. We're out of the blocks of bedroom brand, or this should be the year where you really go for it. We've done all the foundations. People know who we are. We've built the community. And now it's just about extending what we're great at and picking up where we're weak. I mean, we've still got the tiniest team ever.
That's a good thing, though. Trust me.
Yeah, of course.
When you get to 60 and now, you're jealous of small teams.
I see it with my partner. He's got a lot of hospitality businesses, massive, loads of staff, big moving parts, difficult.
That is the name of the game in like D2C now. Is lean operations and really profitable. Well, and I think you've achieved so much in that time frame, especially with what else you've had going on in life, having a child. Like everybody, you're the first woman we've had on here, and everyone's been a male who, from that perspective, have it a lot easier.
Well, you've got so much time on your hands. You don't even realise how much time you've got.
Young, and like a lot of them have been sub 20, 25, 26.
Yeah.
So
we won't understand what that ever feels like.
Even if you had a kid now, it's not the same for Danny as it is for me. No way. She needs her mum.
Yeah.
And I have so much guilt. It's difficult. And then I'm paying other people to look after her when it should be me, but we're having work. And I'm like, so it's got to be worth it. So either you go and like, this is the year where, we've grown really well, but this is the year it's got to really go for it now.
I think you've grown really well within that context. But if you look at other great businesses, like I think Lululemon's a good example, where it's like you spend so much time looking at these examples online where people have gone from 0 to 50 million in 3 years, and it's like that's not the norm. Like great businesses often grow at like Lululemon is a good example. It's like, yes, they grew. They're doing huge numbers. But they grew 20% a year for like over 20 years, and it's like that slow, steady, good growth.
Yeah.
Which I think you've obviously seen. It's just like taking that on to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the thing. When that first piece in the Daily Mail came out, I had so many people ringing me up wanting to stock it. And this one guy from Nottingham, he was like, well, we'll take 2,000 products off you like a week. I was like, what? Like, I'd only been in business 2 weeks. I was like, what, mate? You know what I mean? So entire inventory. And people could get dazzled by that opportunity. And I was just like, no. Like, I've not even built a bloody customer yet. Do you know what I mean? I haven't even built a customer base. And he was coming in and saying, well, we have the biggest online pharmacy. We do this, we do that. And I was just like, no, not you. You can grow too big, too quick. And that you just face
damage the customer experience.
And you just fatal. You just ruin the brand straight away. Whereas, my God, so many things. I've never run a D2C business before. I'm still shit with acronyms. You know what I mean? I'm like, CAC. Do you know what I mean? I'm still such a dinosaur. So the one thing I tell you that's been a bit of a game changer for me, shameless plug here for them, to be fair, is I onboarded something called Viable. Now, I'm absolutely terrible with figures. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm all about marketing. I love emotional marketing, branding, packaging. Yeah, that excites me, gets me out of bed. Fucking figures, data, can't stand it. Hate it, which is the crux of a business. So if you're not good at it, get somebody who is. Yeah. And I met Viable, and I've got this guy called Ian, who's like a pseudo FD for me. But it's a piece of software that sits in the back of Shopify that forecasts all my figures for me. And it takes into account all my purchase orders, everything. It is like insanely good. And it then, because I was at a point where I was like, oh, maybe we need to borrow some money to have a bit more growth and stuff like that. And he was like, well, no, you don't, because look, in week 12, you're going to have that much in the bank at this stage because you'll have that paid, that paid, that paid. And you can literally see it. I think it's 14 weeks in advance. You can see all your cash flow for. And it was just so smart. It was just amazing. And that was like, it also helped me be a bit more granular on where we were maybe overspending. I didn't realize. Like, you know, sometimes when you're just paying stuff all the time, you don't even realize where you're hemorrhaging. You know, I didn't really realize where I was spending marketing spend. And I think, well, that freelancer I've given that to. And it all adds up, doesn't it? And at one point I was like, God, we're spending loads on this, you know. And I always put it into our like blended cost per acquisition as well. Because I'm like, of course, we've got agencies. You've got to put that still a cost to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you've got to put that into your ROAS almost and see what's the true cost of that, you know, and put that against your LTV. So that piece of kit, that, you know, I thought that was invaluable. So if anybody's doing like under 10, 12 million in revenue and listening to this, and you've got a D2C Shopify business, I would say that is absolutely critical to helping you grow. And you might be able to see, well, maybe we don't need to take that money at that rate. You know what I mean? Because that's where I was at and we didn't.
Have you got any plans to raise money like over the coming years, or are you planning to do it
Good
self-funded?
question. I actually sat down with my guy, Ian, shout out to Ian from Bible yesterday. I actually have a meeting tonight that I'm going to with some VCs.
Potential investors.
Interesting.
Nice.
Listen, it's good, isn't it? Just go for experience, whether you want the money or you don't.
It's definitely
a good experience to go through.
And it's best to go when you don't need it and you've got all the cards in your table.
I said, let's talk to me about, you know, I was like, what's my LTV at the moment? He looked through, he said, really good. You're really profitable. You've got like very investable. Here's all the figures that they're going to want to know. So I wrote them all down yesterday and learned them. And I was like, okay, great. But yeah, nice problem to have. You know what I mean? But I see what my partner kind of deals with. And he's got great investors. They're really supportive. He's in hospitality, so he's in retail, bricks and mortar. But he's got a business partner, and them two kind of like shoulder, you know, the responsibilities between themselves. I haven't. It's me. You know what I mean? We've got a really small team, and it's like, do I really want to spend a lot of time like answering to the board? Why have you spent this on this? Why have you done this on this? And it can actually, you know, as much as it might unlock a new level, it brings another level of pressure to you as well.
Is that a bad thing though? Because that might be, because I think from what I've heard, it very much depends on the VC. You know, it's you can find, like Matt from Space Good spoke about this on his episode. You know, if you find the right VC that is more of a collaborator rather than, you know, you're answering to them specifically, it builds a bit more structure around what you're doing, which is a positive, but also, you know, it doesn't need to feel like you have to answer to someone.
Yeah, exactly. I think if it was like a strategic partnership, like maybe they already distribute a lot around the world globally, great. Well, that's a great partnership, surely. And it would depend on the equity, whatever, really. So it's all there, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you want someone who's like there when you need advice and there to provide guidance when asked for, but not someone who tries to like part their thoughts and ways of working when you don't ask or need it. And I think it's really important to like have a really clear understanding of how you're going to use the money. And
definitely.
Having too much funding I also think is a bad thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And like you said, you're very lean. If you're profitable and lean, like there's probably another phase of growth to go before you need like it's easy to think that there's probably another step you can go with just that, like before that's required.
And listen, women don't get investment. Like what was it? 2%? 2% of all VC
That's
money
crazy.
goes to women.
Grace Beverly did a really big breakdown of that a couple of weeks ago. And it's crazy.
It's absolutely bullshit. Do you know what I mean? Like, Christ, it's absolutely crackers. So this is why I'm a big investor in other people. I had a chat yesterday. There's another D2C brand. You definitely get her on. But I haven't signed all the documents yet, but pretty much likely I'm definitely going to invest in her. J-Lux. It's a fashion and it's not a fashion brand. It's a gym brand. She does really good products. I tried the products. I really liked her. She told me she's doing a raise. Met her a couple of times. I thought she's great. She's 26, she's keen, she's eager, she's nimble, and I love what she's doing.
It's the jockey, isn't it, sometimes over the horse as well.
Absolutely. So I invested in another brand called By Rotation. That's the clothing rental app.
Yes.
It's, again, wonderful, amazing, outstanding young woman, like amazing. And I was like, wow. And she said to me, she was like, I saw a pitch at this event, and it was like a really closed event. I saw a pitch and I was just like bowled over, and I knew this business. I thought, this is a business for me. Of course it is. I would use this app. Of course I would. And if I genuinely could get excited about it, then I was interested in it. So I just emailed her saying, I'm keen to invest. Didn't ask for a P&L, didn't ask to meet her, just said, there's the money. And she was like, I can't believe that. You didn't even ask to get on Zoom with me. And I was like, no, I know this business. And it's going really, really well. Like now she's got a like townhouse on Mayfair, like a pop-up shop, but she's absolutely killing it. Do you know what I mean? Like Helen Mirren's put her clothes on there, and Ellie Goulding has put her clothes on there. She's somebody you should definitely get in here as well. If you want more female founders,
100%.
These are great.
You might be the funnel that we need to
Yeah.
get more of them
Been
on
trying.
Yeah, for sure.
So what you spoke about big year 2025. What's on the horizon?
So I think we're launching 2 new products. Really good ones. Can't tell you what they are yet because they're not quite finalised. So we're launching 2 new products. And what I've realised is that I was probably a bit naive to think you could probably scale a business with one SKU. You can get so far, but you're not going to like go the whole way. And the thing was, everybody would come to me and say, what else should I be taking, Elissa, to support my like hormonal health or whatever? And I always used to say magnesium, vitamin D, omega-3, all this, go and buy this, go and buy this, go and buy this, go and buy this all the time, just making fortunes for other companies. And everybody was going off and buying it. And I was like, why am I not just manufacturing this myself? And I would have done it a lot sooner, but I was in a trademark dispute with Elle magazine for ages, 2.5 years, over the word Elissa,
God,
which was
that was stressful.
fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was like 2.5 years, so I couldn't like put my name on anything else if I didn't really own it, and was going through this trademark dispute. And they were like really being quite aggressive, and I was like, no. And honestly, it was like the week before I was in labour. We'd agreed to change the name to Elissa, not as 2 words, as all one word. So I'd bought Elissa.com, which came available. That cost me like $3,000. Solicitors' fees cost me like 20. So, and a lot of time and effort, and stunted the growth because of course I'm thinking, do I really spend loads on packaging? Because if I have to change the name, because then all new molds have got to be made and everything, ball ache. So that really stunted us. Anyway, it was just because I went through such a traumatic birth. I was like, I am not fucking rolling over. I'd rather just go to a tribunal and have a day of it. And when I said that, they just backed down. I was like, well, I've been saying this all along. Why couldn't we just do this in the beginning? But anyway, it was, so then they just backed down. That was it. They withdrew.
It always happens, doesn't it? They just think you'll fall at the first hurdle.
I was like that from day one. But my father and my solicitor, shout out to Graham though, because he was actually quite cool. They were very cautious. They were like, you might lose it all. I was like, they just didn't want me to have worked so hard for everything and then lose it. And I was like, well, all right, let's say I've got to change it to Willis's Golden Pill. It'd be a great story of why I had to change it. Not turn that into PR. But
so
whatever.
You go after him then. You go after him in the PR.
So that was just a bit of a ball ache.
I love that though, just quickly, because I think there's this thing of like circle of influence versus circle of concern. And I think one thing I noticed about you really have that circle of influence where it's almost like any problem, like how can you turn that into an opportunity? And I think that's the PR that comes out in you. Because it's so true. It's like something goes wrong or could go wrong. It's like that is an opportunity for something else.
Of course it is. It's a good story. And like, oh my God, first 3 months, I got like a letter through from another company who was like, copied our packaging. I was like, no, I haven't. And so that was another argument I had. 3 months of trading. So that was a nightmare. Dealt with that one. And literally, I think it was 2 days later, I get another one, Elle magazine. I was like, what now? Do you know what I mean? I think it's just one of those things. Once you go through it once, you think, oh, right, whatever.
Yeah.
just another one, isn't it? And you become, again, it's that building that resilience, that thick skin. And there's no way to learn anything. You can't learn how to ride a bike by reading a book. You've got to get on the bike. You've got to fall off a few times until you get skilled at it. And we've got a quote on the wall in the office that says, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. And that's one of my favourite quotes because, whenever it's rocky, I think, well, you've just got to ride it and enjoy the journey. And I don't know how you two cope with stress or anything, but one of my things is I listen to a lot of Brian Cox.
Oh,
so do I.
Right?
I fall asleep to Brian Cox.
And I just it helps me zoom out and think, it doesn't fucking matter, does it?
Yeah.
Like, you are so insignificant in this moment of time. Never mind
So
the problem
true.
you have.
Yeah.
Just,
When you
if
zoom out.
no one's dead, you're okay.
You've been to his live shows?
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
Mega.
you
amazing.
went, didn't you?
Really good. Really good. Would recommend. Really
yeah,
good
I would
fun.
definitely love to go.
He's a real performer.
Is he?
It wouldn't surprisingly, yeah.
Yeah,
good.
he's great. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I think just to end, because we're slightly going over, but we're all right. We'll get dragged out kicking and screaming. We'd just like to end on asking about any trends that you're seeing or predictions for 2025 in D2C. Anything that either you guys are doing that is really working for you now, or that you're seeing that may be coming.
Do you know what? I'm like I tell you, I'm a bit of a dinosaur. So I just don't really look at trends, but I have mad ideas all the time. So to launch our magnesium, we shot a music video because I was in the car and I was like, I heard Sam Sparro, Black and Gold came on. And I was like,
What throwback that is.
oh, but what a fucking tune.
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my God, our magnesium's green and gold. So Kelly's a singer. It's another string to her bow. And I was like, Kelly, can you sing this? But we'll change the words and we'll make it all about Elsewhere's magnesium. And then we did it. So we recorded it and like the layers on it, like proper production on it, right? There's no D2C brands that are doing this. So I was like, great. And that's something I like, that creativity, these mad ideas that are like, just like funny moments that make your day go a bit better. So things like that, whether it's a trend or not, it's going to take off. I like to do a lot of employee content. We always have. Kelly's always front focused. So am I. Love that. And now that's becoming a big thing.
So that's a trend now. That's what everybody
Well,
else
it
are
is,
jumping
but I've
on.
been doing it forever. And then other things is like, I saw this the other day, but I've always had ideas on this. And there's a guy I want to work with. I met him at a retreat like 4 or 5 years ago. He's called Billy Seberg. He goes around with Chasing Status. So, and whenever I can try and get him away from Chasing Status, to come and film something like a mini movie with me, with obviously Elsa as being the like hero product in the movie. But I think mini movies and engaging storytelling, maybe a 3-minute movie. I know Kim Kardashian did some weird thing for Christmas, didn't she? Did you see that? And that was
I heard about it, but
Was
I didn't
that-
watch it.
Not the Skims North Face.
No, it wasn't. It was like some weird thing, but that was a bit weird. But take that concept of these like small mini movies.
Yeah.
That now you can do 3 minutes on Reels on Instagram. I think that's what we're going to lean into more because I actually like that.
I feel like you need to do like actual vlogs, like longer form vlogs.
Well, we have
That's
actually started that as well.
Yeah, because I know you've done a few bits there. Because that's the thing I think this year, like longer form content for brands and founders. I think people are craving building more of a connection with the founder as you have with your community. I think
that's
they want to
strong.
expend.
In terms of anyone looking at your business, in terms of wanting to invest in it, that you are doing short form, long form. We do a podcast.
Yeah.
That is one of our best marketing tools as well. Yeah. That like, because and that's again something that I've tested and learned. Well, who do people like to listen to more? Why? It also gave me an opportunity to try and talk better as well, which it's such a skill to talk, be articulate, speak well. I'm still not nailing it, by the way, but oh my God, I'm so much better than like episode 1. And then it means whenever I get invited on a podcast, I'm comfortable doing it. When I did Abby Clancy's, which a lot of people watched, I was very comfortable talking to her, but that comes with practice. So that's a great tool for the brand too. So I am, started a YouTube channel, our subscribers growing, and it's just about having that 360 marketing approach all the time that I think will really set you apart from just looking at, oh, well, you just do Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Which a lot of D2C brands just obsess over too much, and they don't look outside of what's actually going on.
Yeah, I think it's that Red Bull model, isn't it? It's like flipping the model on its head. So you're becoming a media company that also sells a product.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're doing very well.
Storytelling, yeah. Like you
Well, that's my blood. That's all I did. I used to write stories all day, and then I wrote autobiographies.
Different mediums, but all storytelling.
Yeah,
with
and
a
that
long
is
or short
something
form.
I think I'm definitely going to lean into a bit more. The problem is, I like doing that, but I, as any founder does, you get bogged down in the ordering stuff, the this, the that, the hold ups, the packaging, sign off on this, sign off on that. And because there's only 3 of us in the office, it's very heavily reliant on. I really need to build the team out now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time to actually do it, and time to like the creativity. I feel like when you're under a lot of time pressure,
You
you're
can't just
not
let
as
it
creative.
flow.
You're not as like ideas don't come as freely to you. Like, so yeah, I think.
And then I've got to be home at 4 o'clock to go and get my daughter from nursery, and then I'm like, oh, great, Peppa Pig. You know what I mean? And then if I can't just be sitting on my phone with her because accidents happen and I'm not watching her and things like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and then I feel like I'm being shit here, and I'm shit mother as well.
Yeah.
It's like, it's very, very difficult to balance it both.
I feel like the long-term game with you, because you've got the personality, you've got that personal brand and that connection with the audiences, and it's kind of what we were talking about with Jack, what they're doing with D. Louise this year, like building the marketing team around you rather than the product, essentially.
I know, but then other people say, well, if you want to have a valuable business, then you can't be too attached to the business.
It depends what you.
If you ever want to exit.
Yeah, I guess if that's what you want potentially, but
I'd argue that once you get to the point of that, like it's possible to work you away
or just sit on the board.
It's like there's a once you've got the resource, it's like it's very possible to move away from that key man risk, as they call it.
You could say
like
the same as like
businesses.
the boys from Represent. They've really built it around them, but the valuation of that business now is crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts, isn't it? Yeah.
Nice. Well, sadly, we're gonna have to end it here. I feel like we could go on all day, but where can people find you?
So El Sarah, so on Instagram mainly. So it's at elsarah.inc. And then if you want to follow me, although I'm not very good value these days, it's at Miss Elissa C.
Nice. Well, we'll put it all down below anyway. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I know it's been a bit of a nightmare with the travel.
I know. I'm just so glad that we've had a different perspective. Maybe a more humanist D2C chat today, because I listen to you guys a lot, and it can get so technical sometimes about the conversions and this and that and I'm like, oh my god, I don't do any of these that these are the founders do. I don't do any of that. No, well, maybe I should.
It's nice. It is nice to have that. Yeah, that diversity, because it's you have a very different perspective than most that have come on here. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Well, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe on YouTube at D2C Diaries, as well on Spotify. Give us 5 stars, comment, subscribe, all of the above. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode.